You're listening to the Loving Your Own Soul podcast, and I'm your host, Britt Olson. Guided by my own intuition, my intention is to deliver genuine conversations centered around health and wellness, spirituality, self-expression, and culture. In this space, I will provide you with real-life stories, theories, and inspiring perspectives to help you uncover and tap into your own true potential. I'm so grateful you've chosen to tune in with me on this mindful exploration to living a more fluid life through a deeper connection to the soul. Now let's dive into today's journey. Hello, my loves. Britt Olson here, your podcast host and holistic wellness coach, here for the purpose of guiding you to tap into your true potential. You know, it's funny, when I went to record this intro, so I live down in Florida and we are super lucky to have such beautiful weather, especially this time of year. And oftentimes we keep our windows open, we live on the water. I just love being able to feel the fresh air, cleansing throughout my house, etc. However, whenever I go to record, sometimes I get a little bit frustrated because I might have a plane go by or there's sounds in the background. And it suddenly occurred to me that if I were to just close the windows and the doors to the area I record in, I wouldn't have that problem, which is honestly ridiculous. I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner, but it's just funny. So if you're maybe struggling with something right now or feeling a little annoyed at any scenario or whatever might have you, maybe just take a second and look around and see, is there anything you can do to transform yourself or your atmosphere? So hope you got a good laugh out of that. So this year with season 2, I started doing a few fun facts about me with every episode, and I figured I would keep going with it for this one. So 3 fun things that you probably don't know about me. Number 1, I love to read. Really love it. Books of any kind. But I'm traditional in that sense, in that I really can't read on screens or really listen to both. I tried both, and they just weren't a total hell yes to me. Although I do wish I could listen to audiobooks because I could probably get through so many more books. But for me, I just honestly have realized I need that traditional book in my hands where I can feel and smell the pages. There is just something about it. I love a physical book so much. If anyone else out there is like that, definitely do tell me, because I'm sure we are not alone on this. And some of my most recent books that I've read that I really enjoyed, one of them is Broken Branches by Vanita Carr. And Vanita was actually a guest on episode 33, just a couple back from this one, so definitely go check her out. This was a fiction novel with some underlying self-help themes as it pertains to mental health and just kind of the journey through life. It's a great book. Otherwise, Gabby Bernstein, huge fan of her. I just reread Untamed at the beginning of this year by Glennon Doyle. Just kind of reread it for fun and to give a little boost going into the new year. And as of recently, I am reading Rise, Sister Rise by Rebecca Campbell. And wow, it is so powerful. I can honestly feel my divine feminine just truly getting shaken up and brought to the surface with every word and every page of this book. Phenomenal. Cannot recommend it enough, especially for those females out there who really feel that they are awakening and rising and just coming more into their divine power and femininity. And I would love to know your favorite books. Definitely please share. Shout them out on Instagram at Loving Your Own Soul. Love reading. Would love to know what you all are reading as well. And let's see, another fun fact before I drag this out too long. 16 is my angel number. For those of you who do not know, the number 16 is literally everywhere for me, and it has always been everywhere my entire life. It's wild if we truly get into all the places it shows up for me. But when I see 16, I really kind of see it as my little checkpoint from the universe that yes, I'm in the right place at the right time. I'm being divinely guided, and my spirit guides are really there with me, ensuring that I'm on the best path for that present moment. I love it so much. It's shown up in my phone numbers, social security numbers for not only myself, but other important people in my life, addresses, birthdays, special dates, times, prices. I mean, it is all over the place, and it brings me such a smile to my face and really just kind of wraps me in this energetic hug whenever I see it. So I love 16. That number is truly my angel number. And if after listening to this, if you all start seeing the number 16, let me know on Instagram, DM me. Let's chat about it. Numbers are so fun. And last fun fact would be that this is kind of a silly one, but the movies Blue Crush and Titanic are literally two of my favorite movies of all time. And if you're laughing right now, I honestly totally understand. By all means, please do. However, both of these movies honestly just speak so deeply to my soul beyond kind of the Hollywood showcasing and storytelling element that goes on. I would also say, Beauty and the Beast, and then the movie Divergent, and a couple other movies too are also my top favorites. I just can't really come up with them right now. I'm actually really sensitive to watching things on screens, whether it's movies or TV, and it can be hard for me to separate reality from it. So with that, I don't spend too much on TV screens, and I'm also kind of bad at remembering names of movies and things, but that's okay. Not bad, just not my strongest suit. Obviously, if you can't sense a theme with some of my favorite movies, I obviously love things with a water element and then a strong, independent female lead who pretty much comes out on top in her own journey. So funny. I love the little things that we enjoy and how just much truth they kind of speak to who we are. So funny. Anyways, speaking of journeys and transformation moments, today's episode features Katelyn McJunkin, who is a breathwork facilitator and emotional wellness coach. And honestly, these two titles could not be more fitting for this beautiful soul because she has one of the most calming of energies. You'll see in this episode, but talking with her is kind of like sitting in a spa. It's so glorious. And in this conversation, Katelyn talks all about breathwork, the benefits behind the practice, and the many ways we can and really should be using it in our lives. Katelyn also demonstrates a little breathwork session there, so do be sure to stick around for that, and definitely pause if you are doing anything in the middle of listening to this episode so that you can fully participate. It totally shifts your energy. It's so wonderful. And I think that's it. Anyway, before I give too much away, let's go ahead and jump into today's episode with the wonderful Katelyn McJunkin. All right, Katelyn, I'm so excited to have you on here today. First of all, welcome to the podcast. And you are actually one of my first Canadian interviews. So yeah, quite the honor.
That is really exciting. And thank you so much for having me. I really look forward to our conversation and time together this afternoon.
Gonna be fun. What are you drinking, by the way?
I have a water and I have a decaf coffee.
Cool. I love coffee. Something about the smell of it is like,
It's so good. I'm trying decaf to kind of like give myself a little bit of a caffeine break, but I cannot give up coffee. It's just too good.
Right? It is. I feel that so much. Well, you are a breathwork facilitator and emotional wellness coach. And to anyone who maybe is new to you or your story, I would love to just kind of get started with telling the listeners a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite stories because where I ended up feels so in alignment and so true to like what I'm supposed to be doing, but it is nowhere near what I thought I would be doing. And my whole life planned out, the whole, work the corporate job, climb the ladder. And as I started doing that, I realized at the end of the day, it just was not for me, which I think especially over the course of the last year, a lot of people can relate to. They're really starting to branch out on their own, try to figure out what lights them up, find their passions and what brings them fulfillment. So my journey started on a bit of a sour note. I was dealing with a lot of depression, anxiety, trying as many holistic healing modalities that I could find. And there was a lot of podcasts and a lot of meditation classes and a lot of yoga and different adaptogens and things. And it was probably about 3 or 4 years of me trying so desperately to get to what I thought was the root of my anxiety, the root of my depression. And I realized that year after year after year, I was just treating the symptoms. I was just trying to manage my symptoms. And I stumbled upon breath work. And that's when it all kind of clicked that I was missing this embodiment, this integration piece that took everything I was learning and allowed me to apply it to my life in such a way that when I step off the mat or step off the cushion, I was continuing to reap those benefits in my everyday life and really take a bottom up approach and deal with the root causes and the traumas and all of the stuff that I buried down for so long so that I was able to kind of move forward. And it was in that transition of learning so much about myself and kind of clicking those missing pieces together that I decided to take this kind of on a career path. It was so powerful in my life that I just had to share it. And I knew it was kind of like my journey was to continue this mission and continue bringing that health and wellness and the light of life back into other people.
I love that so much. I resonate so deeply with that. I also just love the fact of just with everything that you experienced and then just, really holding that role for others to then be able to share your gifts and everything like that. For anyone who is not familiar at all, I would love to, obviously breath work is kind of the foundation of your work. So I would love to hear from you on kind of exactly what it is, where did it come from? I don't even know if there is a history to it.
There definitely is. There's a couple of different types of breath work. You have pranayama through yoga, passed down from different traditions. You also have, there's holotropic breath work and rebirthing breath work. Holotropic was invented in the, I think, 60s or 70s, right after, I think it was LSD became illegal. Stan Grof created holotropic breathwork, studying PTSD in patients and overcoming that with breath. And so I'm trained in pause breathwork, and it kind of almost takes elements out of these other breathing modalities. So it's kind of similar in a way, but a little less intense, I guess. So for those completely new to breathwork, the modality that I teach kind of has two different branches, I guess. One of them being integrative, which is where we use the breath to achieve a quick outcome. We want to feel more focused, more energy, maybe a little less stressed. Things we can do throughout the day, we can integrate them into our day. And then meditative breath work, which is more of the come into the studio or virtually lie down, have your eye mask on, you breathe a specified pattern for a certain amount of time based on whatever our intention is for the session. You have affirmations and you kind of really get to get out of your head and into your body in such a way that it really facilitates transformation.
Cool. It's incredible how transformational the breath can be. Like it's so simple, yet so powerful. I feel like it gets maybe overlooked. I don't know if you've experienced that and kind of just even chatting about it before.
Absolutely. Even just in the everyday, if we think, when was the last time we really had awareness of our breath? Even in this moment, maybe we're breathing fast or slow, deep or shallow. We're so disconnected. We're so in this heightened sympathetic state. We're go, go, go. We're hustle, hustle. We have phones going off and emails and conversations and things. So it can be very overwhelming. And so coming back to the breath is such a simple and powerful tool that, yeah, we absolutely do kind of forget about it. And it's fascinating because the autonomic nervous system is something that runs on its own, but we also have the ability to manipulate it and use it for things like stress reduction or transformation. And it's accessible to all of us. It's free to use. It's in our back pocket. And that's something I love so much about it, is just how accessible the breath is.
Totally. It's with us wherever we are. We don't even have to change clothes to use it.
Exactly. Wherever you are, whenever you need it, it's right there.
100%. So in your work, and I'm curious to hear too, kind of what it's been like, in the last year, kind of transitioning from in-person to virtual and everything. But how does one go about administering or holding kind of space with a breathwork client?
With the client, we'll speak in like a meditative one-on-one situation, I guess, for to keep it as simple as possible. So virtual, I kind of had to pivot online. I think most of us did over the last year.
Yeah.
That's kind of just kind of out of necessity had to pivot.
Yeah.
And so an online session, we would discuss your intentions beforehand, I come up with a custom playlist for every session
Cool.
that kind of takes you up and then brings you back down in a very gentle way. We work together to figure out what would best serve you in terms of affirmation and breath pattern. And yeah, it's just a really safe container. If anyone is new to breathwork, I do recommend booking in with a facilitator, at least for your first time, because it can be quite overwhelming. My very first time doing a meditative breathwork session, I just had a pre-recorded audio, and there were so many emotional and physical responses coming up for me, and I had no idea what was going on. It was so new to me. I was so confused. And so having someone there to hold space and answer your questions, I think, is really important. But if you did want to approach it from just a quick little breath work throughout the day to energize or whatever, there's lots of options like on YouTube and even over on my Instagram, on my IGTV, and I have story highlights as well with quick little breathing exercises that you can do to just kind of unwind and settle in. But if you really want to go on a journey, really want to deep dive into yourself and gain maybe a sense of clarity, reconnect to your intuition, I do recommend carving out some time and having a facilitator, because the experience is just so beautiful.
Absolutely. I can imagine, especially just in that one-on-one container. I feel like almost, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like kind of with the emergence of Google and the internet and technology, we kind of went into this way of living where we can kind of do things ourselves. And I feel like that works a little bit, but yet now I almost see us all kind of in this emergence of moving to working with individuals and being able to talk about it and just being able to hold space with one another. Like myself as a wellness coach, I also get coaching myself because I love it. Like we're always a student, and I think just kind of trading those roles and everything. And I can totally see. So I've only ever done group breathwork classes and things like that. I've never had a one-on-one session, but I would love that opportunity to talk one-on-one and really, just kind of release and get in there as to what took place.
Absolutely. And I think it's a nice starting place, because then you don't have that fear of judgment, I guess, or, it's a little less scary to be vulnerable in a one-on-one situation. That being said, facilitating groups is my favorite thing in the entire world, and I cannot wait until in-person's back. I do run weekly online groups, but that connection, and I think we're especially missing that over this last year, that connection and community when you have a group of breathers, is the energy in that room is next level.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure you can probably just feel all of it on so many levels. Yeah. That's so cool. So what are some, I know we kind of chatted a little bit about your story and kind of how it helped you, but what are some of the main benefits to breath work? Maybe both on like a physical and a spiritual side.
Yeah. Physical benefits, the most common that I have personally experienced or I've seen in my clients, a decrease in muscle tension, a decrease in stress, anxiety, kind of activating that parasympathetic state and kind of stepping us a little out of that sympathetic heightened state. Some people have reported less pain, improved digestion. It really just gets things moving. And I always feel very relaxed, very at ease, and a lot less tense. From a spiritual perspective, which I'm always so excited about, increased focus and mental clarity, I guess, could kind of be either an increased access to creativity, to intuition, to source, spirit, universe, God, whatever terminology you use. Yeah, it really gets you out of your head and into your body. So from a spiritual perspective, it's very aligning.
I feel that so much. Yeah, it's so incredible. One of the things I noticed that I would love to hear kind of your insight on this was during one of my first breathwork sessions, and I don't know the correct terminology, but it was when you kind of like inhaled twice and then exhaled once. It was like the, which what that type is.
In the breathwork that I facilitate, we call it the triactive breath.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I will table that word in my head.
There you go.
I'm trying to talk about it. But I felt such like rushes of energy through my body that it almost became like a little overwhelming at first. Like I had someone, kind of like guiding me through it, but it was like, whoa, what is this feeling? And then understanding with other work I've done and things to just kind of, move through it. And then that's where all the benefits and releases came up. Do you see that with people where they kind of get that like physical sensation of the moving energy and then you kind of have that release after?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things too about breathwork is it allows us to kind of clear that stuck and stagnant stored energy and emotion and traumas in our system. If you think about through the lens of like somatic experiencing, if an animal gets into an altercation and they freeze up with all that adrenaline and all that cortisol, you'll watch them visibly shake it out and process and move that energy, whereas we brilliant humans freeze. And we'll continue to store that in our fascia, in our tissues, in our muscles. And so breathwork kind of unlocks that and allows it to move. And so it can be quite intense in terms of energy surges, tingles, lightheadedness. Some people experience tetany, which is when your hand seize up. And again, like it's not super common, but it is completely safe and completely normal. And it does happen to a handful of people. Again, why I think it's so important your first time to have someone there, if you do experience it, to help you walk you through it. And after you feel that surge of energy, maybe it's an emotional release like crying or screaming or laughing, or maybe it's a physical release like a shaking or a shuddering. And that's kind of processing all of that stored energy and emotion. So it is common. And I don't think I've had a single session that I've either done personally or facilitated that on some level that hasn't happened.
So powerful. I would love to know maybe a little bit deeper into your own kind of personal experience, or what about breathwork just really became that catalyst for your own development and just moving through all of that depression and anxiety?
Yeah. So when I first tried it, I was laying in my bed, listening to an audio with my headphones on. I was so confused, but there was this remembering almost, and it just felt so liberating and expansive. And I cried and I screamed and I shook, and I hadn't processed emotion like that in so long. I was very disconnected. I didn't want to be in my body. I didn't want to face the day. And it was in that session that I just had the clarity of I'm lacking embodiment and integration. I'm not taking everything I've learned and incorporating it into my day. But at that point in time, I had no idea how to do that. And so at the beginning of my journey, integrative breathwork, just little bits in the morning, throughout the day, to calm my nervous system, bring me back into a more parasympathetic state so that I could respond versus react to the things that life was throwing me, and just begin to live my life with more intention and purpose. And through that, that's when the light bulb started going off, and I started gaining more clarity, and I continued to practice more. And then following the little breadcrumbs that the universe left me, I wound up at the facilitator training. So there was a journey up until that point, there was a journey throughout to that point, and even still today, there is not a single day that passes that I don't, in some capacity, bring awareness to my breath. Even if it's simply just bringing awareness to my breath, I think it's so powerful in regulating my nervous system. And again, just allowing me to live more intentionally and not get so swept up in everything that's going on, and kind of come back to center.
Yeah. When you started really living more intentionally and embodying your purpose and just feeling aligned in your life, in what ways did you actually witness your life start changing, or new opportunities, and what kind of took place for you?
The first thing was the decrease in negative mental chatter. I was my own worst enemy for a very long time, and I always was so frustrated by the whole, it's your mindset, just shift your mindset, just think better thoughts. I had so much trauma and so many things burdening me that simply switching my thoughts to better thoughts just was not an option. It was not sustainable. It was not working. I was so frustrated. And so when that started to decrease, and then I started to have more control over just my thoughts and the way I was processing, opportunities came up, and I was able to, instead of being afraid of them, I now had tools to help regulate. I had tools to help me separate myself from my anxiety so that I could take those opportunities. And it's been a lot of stepping outside of my comfort zone, while being really, really, really scared that I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone. And yeah, just like following those little breadcrumbs, just really developing a fierce sense of trust within myself.
Mm-hmm.
And just exploring everything that comes my way with a childlike wonder and curiosity and supporting myself to the best of my ability.
So cool. Now looking back on it, was it worth walking through that fear and stepping out of your comfort zone?
Every single second of it, every breakdown, every panic attack, it led me here, and I would not change that for the world. It's still definitely a journey, and I think anyone that has dealt with any sort of trauma, depression, anxiety gets that it is a journey, but I would not have traded any of my experiences for the world because it has brought me here.
I love that so much. I feel that deeply as well. I think it's interesting too, you said just like, oh, shift your mindset, like these dialogues that we hear, and you're like, okay, if it were that easy, I wouldn't be sitting here right now in such distress. And I feel like too, even just like the verbiage of like, oh, just get back to your breath. I always was like, okay, but I don't have time to get back to my breath right now. And then in doing the work, I noticed that a couple times whenever I would drive, I suddenly started like driving and just kind of like, I'm just going to take 3 deep breaths right now. And just being able to, those 3 simple breaths, how much my energy would change, my focus. It was like everything else didn't matter. And it just completely brought myself back home to me. But I think it's so interesting how it's really hard to almost just like capture it or understand the essence of it until you've actually started doing it and working with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it takes time, and we all like to get in our own way, and we face our own resistances. And like you said, I don't have time to get back to my breath. I probably said that about like everything, every modality that's ever helped me. I don't have time to do yoga. I don't have time to meditate, but I do have time to binge watch Netflix. And sometimes laying on the couch and watching Netflix all night is exactly what I need. And having the grace and the compassion to like oscillate between those two, because there's times where you're just going to want to lay on the couch, and that's totally fine. And then there's times where you're going to be like, okay, wait a minute, I need to come back to my breath right now because that's what's going to serve me in this moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. I think too, it's also trying to not like, my husband uses the expression like put the cart before the horse, and understanding that when you catch yourself, I just binge watched Netflix for the last 3 hours. When you have that awareness over yourself, like that's amazing. Like having the awareness is that first step, and then you can start making the action and the changes after that. Whereas I feel like you said, we're so quick to like, okay, one and done. Like this session, everything's going to change, but it's such a journey, and it never stops either.
Exactly. We're just all wrapped up in instant gratification, and we want the end to be now because it's easier that way. And at the end of the day, the best things take time, and they take practice, and they take commitment, and it's worth it.
So true. So for you, obviously you're on the journey, you've done the work, you're in a good place right now, always learning, always experiencing, that's for sure. You mentioned on kind of a daily basis, like sometimes throughout your day, you'll maybe look to your breath or do just like a quick little mini exercise or something. What does that look like? Or what do you do exactly?
So I take a page out of a book. It's called Just Breathe by Dan Brule. And at the end, he has something called the 21-day breath mastery challenge. And the way it's set up is 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, and then 2 minutes for 10 times throughout the day.
Cool.
Whatever that works out to, 40 minutes of breath. And saying that I do the 10 plus 10 plus 10 times 2 every day thing is completely unreasonable because I don't. However, even if it's 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes, I don't know, on a break or at lunchtime or whatever, and then a little bit in the evening, it's still a game changer. And day 1 of the Breath Mastery Challenge is just breath awareness. So for that 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, and then in your little 2-minute intervals, just shifting your awareness to your breath. Am I holding my breath? Am I breathing fast or slow, deep or shallow, into my belly or into my chest? And again, having so much grace and compassion, not trying to change it or control it, but just having the awareness around it. That's my favorite go-to. There's also deep breaths My personal favorite is to extend the exhale. When our exhales are longer than our inhales, we stimulate the vagus nerve, which drops us further into that parasympathetic state and just really helps us de-stress and unwind. We need to take a few deep breaths. If you feel like you need to take 3, maybe take 6. Yeah, I think breath awareness and then just extended exhales, slow in through the nose, out through the mouth, deep breaths are my favorite to do throughout the day.
Would that be the same if, say, you suddenly started getting like a wave of anxiety or started feeling overwhelmed? Is there anything in that moment that you might shift or do differently to kind of help get yourself out of that?
Yeah, so I'd first have breath awareness just to notice how I'm breathing. Our emotions and breath are so closely linked. If you think about when you're feeling anxious or stressed, you're breathing very rapid, very shallow. But then if you're feeling very at ease and joyful, maybe they're like long, slow, luscious, deep breaths. And so when our mental state is very agitated and it causes us to breathe in a short, rapid way, but then we're breathing in a short, rapid way, which causes us to feel more agitated, it kind of runs in a little hamster wheel. And so having awareness just to how I'm breathing and then shifting that. So if I want to feel more calm, I'll think about how I would breathe if I was calm and start to invite that in. Often, if I feel a wave of anxiety coming on, I'll also try to shake. I'll shake my hands. I might kind of like bounce up and down on my toes and just kind of get my body moving and allow it to process that energy. I'm not one to sit still if I'm feeling very anxious. I find, at least in my personal experience, that makes it a lot worse. And so I'll kind of shake, I'll kind of shudder, and then maybe very forceful breaths out through the mouth, just trying to kind of get out that energy and then invite in those long, slow, deep breaths. Because from a very agitated state, especially if anyone has any sort of trauma, you might not feel safe to slow down. It might not feel safe to take those deep breaths and be still in that moment. So using your personal discernment and whatever works best for you.
I love that. You mentioned the emotional side that comes with breath work. We also spoke earlier how you are, I believe you call yourself an emotional wellness coach in addition to a breathwork facilitator. How do kind of the emotions just tie in with breathwork and maybe like what is emotional wellness actually? I'll just kind of start there.
Absolutely. So I became a quote unquote emotional wellness coach, kind of as an umbrella term. I got into coaching after I became a facilitator because so many emotions and things would come up for clients during a session, and I just really, really wanted to be able to support them to the best of my ability. I know that I've had a lot come up in breathwork sessions, and having someone there to support me through that has been so helpful. I used the term emotional wellness because I think that it's the easiest thing to identify with. We have emotions. We understand that we feel sad, happy, gloomy, whatever it is. And usually when we start to seek change and we want to facilitate change in our lives, that's the first thing that grabs our attention. It's like, oh, well, I'm always feeling sad. I'm always feeling anxious. I always feel a little burdened. And so taking those emotions and transmuting them, I use breathwork a lot in my coaching. They go hand in hand. But at the end of the day, emotional wellness is kind of an umbrella term in the sense that the emotions are not the root, they're the symptom. And so in my coaching, it's a lot of that bottom up approach, getting to the root, whether that be through shadow work, inner child work, breath work, different meditations, to kind of work from the bottom up, from a very embodied place, to begin to shift and change and transmute all of those emotions that hold us back so that we can begin to feel fulfilled and light, and whatever emotions that would make you feel well, being able to call those in from a safe and embodied place.
Yes, it is so important. And our emotions, I mean, oof, they can get the best of us sometimes. At least for me, yeah, they're tricky ones to play with. That's for sure.
They absolutely are. And like I mentioned, they're so closely tied to the way you're breathing, to your state. Oftentimes, I'll feel an emotion in and out of a breathwork session, and it's almost like my mind tries to justify the way I'm feeling. So I'll feel sad, and my mind's like, oh, it's because I got in a fight with my partner, or I left my headlights on and my car battery died, right? And we try to justify the way we're feeling, where the emotion doesn't always need to have an explanation. It's just trying to bring our awareness and our attention to something. And when we dive in right away, to, oh, I know what the problem is. It's the thing I did earlier today. We can kind of spiritually bypass or maybe miss what that emotion, what that sensation is trying to tell us.
Yes. With your clients, and I don't want to give away any personal stories because that's personal, but what forms of, we've talked about kind of on the mental side with like anxiety and depression and things like that, but what types of emotions maybe might people experience during or kind of immediately after an intense breathwork session?
Anything and everything under the sun. Truthfully, I think it's so important to normalize all human emotions. And the really cool thing about breathwork is I could play the same music and say the same things, or you could listen to the exact same recording and breathe the exact same way, and every single session would be so different. Me personally, I've screamed, cried, laughed. I think those are probably the primary ones. I get very excited that I will cry during a breathwork session and a little bit upset when I don't, even if it's just not what my body needed. And I think my clients have kind of done the same thing. I've been in rooms with leading a group. Again, they're all listening to the same music. I'm saying the same things. They're breathing in the same way. And each of the, we'll say 5 people is having a very different experience. One is very still and very at peace. One is crying. One is laughing. One is shaking. One is screaming. Again, it's just so important to normalize all of those human emotions because it's all so possible. And when we really surrender to the breath and allow it to drop us out of our minds and into our bodies, anything is possible. And there's so much beauty in that. There's so much liberation and expansion, especially in the come down. Don't know if this is true for you, but post breathwork session, like I've never felt so at ease. Even if I was just crying or I'm still crying, it's from such a peaceful place.
So peaceful, such like a cleansing. Yeah, you just feel cleansed. Like I feel super light as well. Kind of like I've just lifted so much off of me. And I do attribute to that as well, to the fact that like stress gets stuck in our body and it's energy. And, we move all of that through us with the breath and everything like that. But I totally feel that as well. Even if I just stopped crying, it's still like, it feels so good. So
that exact noise. I need to play that noise at the end of a workshop because that is exactly how it feels.
It's so true. As humans, we want to naturally grow and to experience change. However, it's the fear of taking conscious action on these wants that keeps us stuck, keeping us unconsciously attached to an imbalanced life, attached to the habits and comfort that pain, suffering, fear, resentment, and limitations of our current realities provide to us. Whereas in reality, our true home, our real home, resides in a world of balance, a world we are aware of, yet also free of anything that no longer serves us. For balance is the key to life. Balance is the aim of all living creatures. We are all alive and living right now in this moment. Our earth is also alive. Our beautiful earth is mostly made up of water, and we too, as human beings, are made up primarily of water. Wherever there is water, there is life. And just as water must be kept in balance here on earth, we as human beings must also be kept in balance. After much discovery and witness to life's experiences, I created Ambu, a modern holistic wellness company. Ambu is a company designed to truly realign you on a mind, body, and soul level. Through my holistic wellness practice, my intention is to guide you to a more rightful and truthful way of living. A simple guide that complements and enhances where you are right now. Real change happens from within and is the key to not only transforming yourself, but your experience of the world around you. Together, I will work with you to uncover your why, adopt sustainable practices for long-lasting lifestyles, and expand to your fullest potential. Our lives, and especially the world of health and wellness, has gotten far too complicated over the years. Through my work with Ambu, I strip it all back to the beginning of time, back to the basics, in order to bring you full circle, not to a new self, but back to the essence of yourself, your one and only authentic self. AMBU offers a variety of programs and resources, each built with intention to target how unique we all truly are. We offer a 9-week wellness program called Life in Balance, which is a snapshot of our larger 6-month program, where we will open the doors to longevity, new possibilities, happiness, the power of plants, and your total well-being. We will focus on all areas of your health, from what you are eating and why you are consuming certain foods to what's happening off your plate. This program is perfect for anyone looking for a new take on life, specific attention on gut and hormone health, mental health, immunity, and even chronic illness. We look at the full picture of your lifestyle, from your sleep, relationships, self-care and daily rituals, spiritual or religious practices, career goals and stress levels, to daily movement and activity. You are a multidimensional being, and it's crucial we keep that in mind at all times. For my 3 and 6 month program participants, one will also receive their very own customized human design blueprint produced by human design guide Becca Daly. Together, through the help of understanding your specific human design, we will be able to even more deeply structure your life in a way that supports how you are naturally designed to operate. It's truly a win-win for all of us involved. And of course, if you are someone who is simply struggling to eat healthier, knows you could be doing something different, yet have no clue where to turn, I've created my Lifestyle Tune-Up, a one-off option for us to find easy swaps, pantry replacements, and help you to better understand what is actually healthy in today's world. Plus, I will leave you with my full guide of preferred brands to shop for and supplement recommendations. All in all, a life well lived is a life that you are able to enjoy. It's time to rediscover your inner calling, your healthiest and brightest you that's been waiting inside of you for all this time. It's time to dust him or her off, and I'd love for AMBU to serve as your guide and accountability partner in this journey. So let's guide you back home to a life in balance through our modern holistic approach to wellness. To learn more, visit us at ambuwellness.com or connect with us on Instagram at ambuwellness, and let's transform together. Well, I would love to, if you're interested, maybe do a little breathwork demonstration for those listening who are unfamiliar. Obviously, encourage everyone to go find you on social media, and we will get into where people can find you and everything. But let's maybe do a little exercise right now if you're up for that.
Yeah, let's do it. A nice little short and sweet one.
Yeah.
All right. So for anyone listening, I do suggest, if you are pregnant or driving or in a body of water, to maybe come back to this when you are available and in a safe space to do so. All right. That being said, let's dive in. I invite you, if it feels safe, to close your eyes and begin to notice your breath awareness. Shifting your awareness, noticing if you're breathing fast or slow, deep or shallow. If you're breathing into your belly or breathing into your chest. And beginning to just invite in deeper breaths, just kind of following the natural rhythm of your breath, that natural ebb and flow, but feeling the breath pull down into your belly, the expansion in your belly, the expansion in your chest. We're going to do just a few rounds of continual conscious breathing, which is in through the nose, out through the mouth. And we will couple those with a couple of breath holds. I will guide the entire time. All you need to do is sit back, relax, and breathe. If your mind wanders, feel free to use the affirmation, "It's safe to slow down." I invite you to begin with me now, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. In and out. In and out. In and out. In. And now holding your breath at the top, just for a moment. And out. So that's one cycle, and we'll do two more. Beginning again in through the nose, out through the mouth, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and hold. And out. And before we begin our last cycle, just taking this moment to notice the energy in your system, any sensations, so that you are so safe to feel all of it. If you're tingly or lightheaded, and beginning our final set, breathing in and out, 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 and then final breath in and hold. Now I invite you to hold this one for as long as you feel able, maybe pushing slightly past that point of resistance, using your discernment. Whenever you're ready, releasing with a sigh. Again, just checking in, noticing if your system feels any different. Maybe you're breathing slower, more in your belly. If you feel at ease, maybe you feel joy, expansion. And then coming back into the space and tuning back in.
That was so nice.
I'm so curious to know how that was for you.
That was so good. I could immediately just start feeling, once we kind of started breathing together, just the energy, especially after holding it and then that big release. I just felt all the little tingles all throughout my body. And then they just really just kind of kept continuing throughout all of it. And then, yeah, I just feel really light right now. I feel very at peace. That felt really good just to kind of take a second to breathe. That was lovely.
Amazing. I love that so much. Thank you for also providing me with the opportunity to kind of share a little breath work in the episode. I think it's really special.
Yeah, that was so fun. I definitely can't wait to hear too. For those of you listening, do let us know on Instagram. We'll be posting obviously about Katelyn in the episode, so definitely leave us some comments or tag us. because everyone's
Yeah.
experience is different. And I love just that. Even like the ends of my fingertips started getting a little tingly too there at the end, kind of when we stopped, which was interesting. Maybe it was all kind of like just the energy was like, boop. So
It was ready to go out there.
totally. So why is it recommended if you're pregnant to not do breath work or certain forms of breathing and things? I've always wondered that.
Yeah, some people say it's okay, some people don't. I think because it's so new to people, I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend introducing anything brand new, I think, in pregnancy. I think that's kind of a no-no. Like no new foods, no new intense exercise regimes. And it can bring up a lot of energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that can be very overwhelming. In the modality I practice, we say that integrative is pretty safe, like taking slow, deep breaths. Something similar to what we just did, usually safe, but practice your personal discernment, talk to your GP, see if it's right for you before you start.
Cool. I've always wondered that. When you said that at the beginning, I was like, oh, I finally get to ask this question. So another question for you. So sometimes when I've done a breathwork session and we kind of go through a breathwork and then it then ends or kind of the session continues then with a deep guided meditation after the fact, sometimes I will fall asleep. Usually, if it's later at night, I'm very connected with the sun. Usually, once the sun goes down, my body's like, okay, time to sleep. When you're sleeping during a guided meditation or something, like that, are you still, maybe you're not consciously understanding the benefits, but you're still reaping the benefits, correct?
Yes. And it depends too. So for some people, falling asleep is a coping mechanism.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you're like, oh, I'm not ready to deal with this. Checking out. Good night. And then sometimes you're so relaxed. And I'm the same way. If it's past 8 p.m. and I'm not in bed, I'm cranky. So when the sun's down, I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
And so I tend to drift off as well, especially in evening sessions. But I think you still get the benefits. I was going to compare it to, have you heard of yoga nidra?
Yes.
Yeah, so like yogic sleep. It kind of feels like you're sleeping. You're kind of conscious, you're kind of not conscious. It's that really deep state of meditation. And so that's kind of what I compare it to. So I personally think that you're still reaping the benefits, much like you reap the benefits of the guided meditation in Yoga Nidra. You'd reap the benefits of your Sankalpa, much the same you'd reap the benefits of your affirmation or your mantra that you use in session, along with whatever sweet nothings were whispered during your meditation.
Mm, totally. What was the affirmation that you gave us? I'm capable of slowing down.
It's safe to slow down.
Oh, it's safe to slow down. I love that. Why
One
do
of
you
my favorites.
think? Yeah, it's so good. Why do you think it is so hard for us as humans, a society where we sit in 2021? Well, it might be a little bit easier after last year for us to slow down, but why is it usually so hard for us to slow down?
I feel like the answer to this is going to be incredibly multifaceted. We live in a society that is very go, go, go. We hustle for our work. If we are not productive, if we are not doing something, then we are not moving the needle forward. We are stuck. We are left behind. Much the same if you grew up in a household and your guardians, your caregivers, your parents, if you were maybe just resting and they were like, oh, you're lazy, get out of the house, go outside, go do something. Don't just sit around. And that can cause little T trauma, which then prevents us from feeling safe. So we always have to hustle, 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 and it doesn't feel safe to slow down. So conditions from your childhood into working life, I think the corporate structure is very much you sit at your desk and you do work, because if you're not working, then you're not productive. And if you're not productive, you don't move up. And it can translate into, I do it all the time at home. I'll be like, oh, I should get laundry and dishes done. But if I don't get to it right away, then I start to guilt myself and I feel all this shame and it just does not feel safe. My body doesn't feel safe to slow down. So incorporating that, and what I love so much about incorporating affirmations into breathwork is we kind of turn off that logical mind, that ego mind, and drop in. So it kind of infiltrates our subconscious a little bit more than if we were just to sit here and say, I feel safe. I feel safe. Kind of gets it in there.
I resonate so deeply with that. I know even for myself, even just trying to take it slow, I've been really just kind of playing with time and my schedule. And I do acknowledge that I do have a privilege working for myself working from home, just being able to kind of jockey that. However, it's really so hard, and it shouldn't be hard, but it's so hard for me to say, I'm not going to sit down at my computer until 10 or 10:30 a.m. because I'm going to take a slow morning. And I'm really still doing work. I'm doing personal development work on myself. So I'm really, still doing something, but it is so hard for me still to not think of, oh, what if I'm getting emails? Do I deserve to be doing this? Like, who am I to be doing this right now? Should I be doing something? Did someone comment something on my Instagram post that I need to go look at? Like, it's just so interesting how it is so difficult. And even when you give yourself permission to like, ooh, I'm going to do this because I know I need this, it's still so hard to turn it off.
Oh, yeah. And there's so many layers and it's kind of weaved in and it's reinforced through conditioning, through society or work environments and things. And then just our own beliefs about ourselves and where we stand. I personally love using the mantra, it's safe to slow down, because I don't feel like it's safe to slow down, because if I slow down, I'll get left behind. And that is something I've had to work through a lot. I don't want to be left behind. I don't want everyone else making leaps and bounds and I'm over here, quote unquote, being lazy, which I have a hard time believing is even really a thing. And yeah, beating myself up. So many layers to why we might not feel safe to slow down. And yeah, thanks for sharing your experience with it too, because that's very helpful and I can relate to that a lot as well.
Yeah, definitely. Even like lazy, what like does lazy actually exist?
Right? Does it? Or have we just made this up?
Yeah. I mean, I know too, just for myself, even if I do take a day to quote unquote be lazy or slow down and like sit on the couch in the middle of the afternoon, it's so hard for that little voice in my head for me to shut that out of like, oh, what would someone think if they knew you were doing this on a sunny day? Like, how dare you sit inside on a sunny day? And it's like, you just got to do what you got to do. But so fascinating, the journey.
Absolutely.
It's never ending. Well, for anyone who is interested in connecting with you further, and I would actually love to know a little bit about your programs. I know you said you do some group as well as one-on-one sessions and things like that, but where can people find you or potentially work with you?
Yeah, so I'd say I'm most active on Instagram at Kate McJunkin. You can also, I guess, email. Don't email. Just send me a DM on Instagram. I think that's probably the best way to get my attention, honestly. I do have some IGTVs going up. I also run a breath-centered Facebook group. It's called the Breath Sanctuary. We run challenges, and I go live in there, just sharing little breathwork tips and tricks and things you can follow along to. So that's nice. I am reopening my books at the end of February for my signature 12-week offer. It's called the Fulfillment Blueprint, and it's a 12-week one-on-one coaching and breathwork container where we get to move through the embodiment and integration of breath into your life and support you in your journey to emotional wellness and fulfillment. So that opens the end of February. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on right now. I do book breathwork clients, just like one-off sessions. If you're interested in trying it, that's absolutely an option. And I run group classes right now on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. MST. And that is through a company local to me called Vivid Psychology and Wellness. We are a collective of mental health and wellness practitioners. I'm very blessed to be a part of the team there. It was started by a psychologist, and she has invited us all in. So there's a lot of us doing classes through there right now. There's Kundalini, and there's meditation, and there's breathwork. And right now, classes are only $7, and that's Canadian. And I'm pretty sure you can register internationally. So American, that's probably like less than $5.
Which is so affordable.
Yeah, it's so affordable. It's a great way to try it out. And yeah, I'll be running those online for the foreseeable future. So that's super exciting as well. And the link to register for all of that is in my Instagram link in bio situation. Alongside a free breathwork audio that actually, funnily enough, uses the "it's safe to slow down" mantra. So
I love that mantra so much. That's going to go into my little journal for sure. I absolutely love that. And your your 12-week program
Yes.
sounds so amazing. I mean, especially just even releasing like this past year has been really heavy, even trying to kind of, process and work through and release all of that. All the levels. That sounds incredible.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we wrap up our conversation here, one of the things I love to do is close out with some loving your own soul questions.
Okay.
So these are just some little unique questions that I typically intuitively kind of come up with right before our recording together. So if you're ready, we'll dive in.
Oh, I'm excited. Absolutely.
Cool. First question, what color do you feel resonates the most with your soul?
The color that just popped into my head was yellow,
Ooh.
which is really funny because I've never identified with that color in my life.
Fun.
Logically, I would say like lavender is kind of calming, but yellow is the one that popped into my head. So I'm going to go with it.
I love it. I love that you're also honoring what popped into your head as well, because that's key. That's so fun. Maybe your aura is yellow. Have you ever had your aura read or
I
anything?
haven't, but I want to. It sounds fascinating.
Yeah, I really want to teach myself how to do it. It's something I keep like putting my hand against a white wall trying to do it, but I'll get there one day.
Interesting.
Next
Cool.
question. Yeah, they say if you put your hand up against a white wall, you can, if you stare hard enough, you can kind of possibly start to see it. Or if you look at a person against a white wall, you can kind of see it. So fun things to play with.
Cool.
Next question. Do you prefer sunshine, rain, or snow?
That is a hard question. I feel like I would oscillate between sun and rain. Sometimes when I feel really introspective, I like how rain feels super cleansing, but I do love the sun. Right now, not a huge fan of the snow. Over the last few weeks, we've got a lot of snow here, and it made driving to work next to impossible. So I'm on a snow break. But for ease of answering this question, I'll say sunshine.
I love that. Such a good multifaceted answer. What is one thing you are most curious about right now?
How I can take the next step. No idea where I'm going. I don't know what's out there. It's just like I'm just so curious about what the next step is. What's the next thing that's going to come into my awareness, the next thing that's going to pop into my life. And it might not be easy and it might not be fun and it might be. I don't know. And I'm just so curious about what's coming in and just kind of approaching it with that childlike wonder and that curiosity.
I love that so much. Do you have a favorite morning beverage?
Right now, I'm team matcha. Team matcha latte.
What do you put in your matcha? Do you use regular milk or like a coconut milk or something?
Right now, I use oat milk, and then sometimes I'll add a little bit of honey or vanilla if I'm feeling spicy.
I love that. What type of movement or workout or even style of yoga are you specifically just really enjoying right now?
Right now, it's hard because gyms are closed because my favorite is weight training. At home workouts, any sort of restful yin yoga is my favorite. Super restorative practices, maybe like a yang yin, but I really love the focus on just that relaxation and the chill yoga. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're still feeling things too. My first yin class that I ever went to, this was like a long time ago, but because you're in the posture for so long, the mind naturally wants to run. And all I could think of was I was like, oof, I'm really feeling, naturally I went like deep into the posture, not fully understanding the full practice at the time. But the whole time I was like, okay, can we move postures yet? Like, this is painful. But I love yin as well now in fully understanding and just being deep into my yoga journey. So
Yeah.
it's funny, the evolution of things. If you could jump on an airplane and go anywhere in the world right now, where would you go?
Again, the first thing in my head was Scotland. I really want to visit the Isle of Skye. It's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that answer.
Cool. That sounds beautiful. I've been doing just different work with like mermaids and things like that. And there's just a lot of merfolk from those coastlines and things. So
that's so cool.
Fun answer for sure. Final question that I ask all of my guests. When did your exploration to diving deeper into your own soul first begin? And how has it evolved since then?
Oh dear. I'd say diving deeper into my own soul, probably in my early 20s. And how has it evolved? At the beginning, I thought it was a lot of, I just got to meditate in the morning and the evening and maybe journal and like pull some tarot cards. And I think my journey has evolved with me. I've definitely gone through very strict periods where I would have alarms to set for every like 2 to 5 minute intervals in my morning routine. And it would be wake up and brush your teeth and make a tea and then sit down and then you meditate and then you pull a card and then you journal and it was very scheduled and very precise. And what I learned through that when it all came crashing and burning down is that it really has to flow with you. And that's going to change based on where I'm at in my life. I'm sure you can relate to that too. Things we gravitate towards, the tools that we use, and the time we make ourselves, time we can set aside for ourselves, especially in like the mornings and things, it changes and it fluctuates as we change and fluctuate. And so it's definitely evolved with me. And I think I'm coming into this place now that it really, my journey into my own soul really supports me, but it also holds me accountable and continues to kind of propel me forward.
I think so many of us can resonate with that. And if you are someone that you are, currently doing the super rigid morning routine, totally fine. We've all been there before. I would say just know that it's okay to add a little more flow, and you might, learn some things along the way. So
absolutely. And it serves its purpose. I think when it was super rigid for me, that's what I needed in that moment. And then it was no longer sustainable and it came crashing down. And now we're kind of in that a bit more of a flow state.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I used to be super rigid. There was a podcaster who had what was called like a 5-minute Friday where they'd, talk about a topic, but their conversations were not 5 minutes. They were like 8 minutes, 12 minutes, sometimes 18 minutes. And it would like bother me so badly for some reason that I was like, why would you call this 5-minute Friday when it's this long?
I used to listen to the same podcast and be like, oh, cool, 5 minutes. What do you mean it's 15 minutes?
Yes.
I was expecting 5.
Exactly, which is so funny. And then now I just, laugh at myself, but like a very true example of a human experience, as I like to call it.
Absolutely. Love that.
So fun. Well, Katelyn, this was such a fun conversation. Thank you so much as well for walking us through a little breathwork exercise. And yeah, I just so love this. Before we close out, do you have any advice for maybe just for somebody who's like interested even after our conversation, but is maybe feeling like a little apprehensive or kind of even just scared to dive into some of their emotions that they haven't walked through before?
Take your time. You have nowhere to be and nothing to do. There's no rush, especially when it comes to the self-development journey. We can get stuck on this. I must consume all of the books and the podcasts and the things and put in so much work and effort. And that can be very overwhelming, especially if you haven't started and you just assume that everyone around you is on step 10 and you don't even know what step 1 is. So just take your time. And if it's something that really calls to you and interests you, just try to keep an open mind and see what you gravitate towards. Because there's so many different self-care and healing modalities out there, personal development. Instead of comparing yourself to what everyone else is doing and what makes them seem successful, just really listening in, getting quiet, and then feeling the pull toward whatever is calling you.
Mic drop. I will leave us with that. Katelyn, thank you so much again. Such a joy having you on here. That was such a fun episode. So much fun. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Katelyn is such a beautiful soul. Definitely go check her out on Instagram, partake in some of her breathwork sessions or little kind of exercises and things that she posts out there. The practice of breathwork is truly so powerful. And Katelyn is just such a beautiful advocate for the practice and coach. And yeah, she's incredible. So grateful to have had her on here. And I am equally so grateful to each of you for tuning in here with us this afternoon. I so appreciate your continued love and following of the podcast. It really means so much to me. And if you feel called to leave a rating and review, I would be forever grateful. And in exchange, would love to send you a special gift. So all you have to do is head over to Apple Podcast, rate and review the podcast, take a screenshot of your rating and review, and then just DM it to me on Instagram at Loving Your Own Soul as proof. And in exchange, I will send you a special gift. And bonus, we get to connect. And I so love connecting with all of you. So definitely please reach out if you haven't yet. Thank you for tuning in here. And I look forward to continuing the journey with you again soon.